Good evening. Today is June the 12th, 2024. The time is 7 p.m. I'll be calling the meeting to order, Churchill County Planning Commission. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Hyde, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Agenda number 3, public comment. None heard. Agenda item 4, verification of posting of the agenda.
The agenda was posted June 6, 2024, in accordance with NRS 241 and Churchill County Code.
Agenda 5, approval of the agenda. It will be a revised agenda. In number 9, new business, item F has been withdrawn. Items J will be discussion and presentation only. No action will be taken. Item K, there will be presentation and discussion with no action taken. I ask for approval of a revised agenda.
Mr. Chair, Zach Bender for the record. I move to approve the agenda as revised.
The motion has been made by Commissioner Bunyard, seconded by Commissioner Hyde. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Agenda item 6, verification of notification of all landowners in accordance with the NRS and the Churchill County Consolidated Development Code.
All efforts to reach out to the landowners has been made.
Agenda item 7, approval of minutes of the meetings held on April the 30th, 2024 workshop and May the 8th, 2024 public hearing. Have a motion.
Mr. Chair, Zach Bender for the record. I move to approve the minutes of the meetings held on A, April 30th, 2024 workshop, and B, May 8th, 2024 public hearing.
Second.
Motion been made by Commissioner Bunyard, seconded by Commissioner Goins. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Agenda item 8, old business. Item A, renewal of a temporary use permit for temporary quarters during home construction previously granted to Stephen and Renzi Claire Easter. The property is located at 4143 Soleus Road. Assessor's parcel number 006-47237 in the A5 zoning district. If you're the applicant, please push the button to make it green.
Just
State
touch,
your name and address for the record.
Just touch the red light. There you go.
Stephen Easter,
Your address?
4143 Soleus Road, Fallon 89406.
Mr. Hines?
Thank you, Chair and fellow Commissioners. Randy Hines, Public Works Director. The applicant has indicated that the home construction is substantially complete. At the time of the application was submitted, the applicant indicated that there was an existing window that was broken and he was waiting for the replacement window to be delivered and installed. Once the window installation is complete, final inspection and issuance of COO can be done.
Thank you. Does the applicant have anything they'd like to add?
The window's in, and I'm planning the state inspection next week, and I should be done with that next week, and then we can get the Churchill County inspector out and have it inspected then, right after.
Okay, so if we were to extend this tonight, if we gave you a 3-month window, 6-month window, would that be enough time to?
Yes, sir, that would be perfect, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Is there any discussion or questions from the commission?
3 or 6 months.
3's okay, I'd take 6, but 3's okay. I can do it 3 on it.
Okay.
I was planning actually to have it done today.
Okay.
Any further? Ask for an approval. Motion?
Mr. Chairman, Jeff Goings for the record. I move that we renew the temporary use permit for temporary quarters during its home construction to Stephen Renzi Claire Easter. The property is parcel number 006-472-37 in the A5 zoning district, and extend it for 3 months.
Motion been made by Commissioner Goins, seconded by Commissioner Bunyard. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries for 4-0. Thank you. Agenda number 9, new business, letter A. a sending site application filed by Denver Nigran for property located at 6725 Stillwater Road, assessor's parcel number 009-09105, consisting of 80 acres with 69.95 irrigated acres of water right property. Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of this evening? None heard? Mr. Hines?
Thank you, Chair. Randy Hines, Churchill County Public Works Director. This application is for a sending site and transfer of development rights. This property meets the minimum acreage and dust control requirements to qualify as an acceptable sending site, as well as benefits the community by agriculture preservation with water right retention, protection of military operations, and protection of water recharge area. Based on the transfer of development rights calculations, the total TDRs for the property is 98. The sending site committee reviewed the application on May 20th, 2024, and recommends approval for the sending site as well as the total of 98 TDRs.
Thank you. Is there any discussion from the commission? None heard. I ask for an approval for recommendation to the county commissioners.
Yes. Oh, go ahead. Mr. Chair, Zach Minor for the record. Based on the information provided in the application and the staff report in this meeting, I move to recommend the following to the Board of County Commissioners. A, approval of the sending site application for Denver Nigran based on providing the community benefits and preserving 80 acres of farmland with surface water rights, protecting nearby military operations, and protection of groundwater recharge areas. And B, approval of 98 TDRs for the same property.
Motion been made by Commissioner Bunyer, second by Commissioner Hyde for recommendation to the Churchill County Boards of Commissioners. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Agenda 9, new business, letter B, temporary use permit application for temporary quarters for general purposes, filed by George and Ann Taylor. The property is located at 4909 Soleus Road, assessor's parcel number 006-43535, consisting of 5.01 acres in the A5 zoning district. Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of this application? Please come forward. Should push the light there till it turns green. State your name and address for the record.
Ann Taylor, 4909 Soleus Road, Fallon, Nevada.
Thank you. Ms. Dukes?
Good evening. The applicant seeks to provide temporary housing for their son Eric while he searches for stable employment and affordable pet-friendly housing. This request differs from other temporary use permits, which typically serve a purpose, such as caretaking, farm help, watchman duties, or home construction. This proposal is to allow general RV living, which is not permitted under Churchill County Code. The applicant has the burden of proof to provide evidence that the proposed use is similar to and not more obnoxious or detrimental than a typical temporary use permit. Evidence must be provided that demonstrates an extraordinary need and demonstrates attempts to find an alternative accommodation. As of May 24, 2024, Eric has started a new full-time job and is saving to move into permanent housing, but given current market conditions and his 3 pets, it may take some time to secure a lease. Therefore, staff is recommending a limited duration approval of no more than 6 months to allow Eric time to find permanent housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the applicant have anything they wish to add?
What was that, sir?
Any new information you would like to add?
I don't have any new information, no.
Do you concur with what Ms. Dukes presented?
My only concern is I don't see Eric's situation turning around in 6 months, and I don't see that for millions of young kids. They're requiring 3 months of income before you can get a lease. He has 2 cats he's had since they were babies. They're 8 years old. His dog, his circumstances, were unforeseeable, a breakup of a relationship. I mean, we can go every 6 months, but I just don't see anything turning around in 6 months. With rentals, I mean, he's kind of stuck unless he surrenders his animals. And then can he afford a place on his income? So I don't know, we'll see. Take it day by day.
Okay. Is there any questions or discussion from the commission?
Mr. Chair, Zach Wynn for the record. Was this a code enforcement? Or did you, Lorelei?
Yes, this was a result of code enforcement.
Okay. So how long had your son been living before?
So before he was living in our guest room, and then my daughter in Reno was hired in Fallon at A&K Construction, moved from Reno to Fallon. So he gave up the back bedroom for her, and then we bought him an RV to live out front where he's at right now, till she can get a place to live, but they won't let her out of her lease in Reno until her lease is up. So we've got 2 grown children back in our house having similar circumstances, except our older daughter doesn't have any animals. So here we are. I don't know what to do. This is all I know what to do. I mean, other than pay their bills outside my house, but I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to do. Here we are.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions? Discussion?
Jeff Goings for the record. So I understand your situation, I do. You also have to take in mind, though, that we see a lot of this now, and
I
not
do.
necessarily like this, but yours is definitely a special situation, so let's say. One of the things, though, that we have to be very cautious of is, as the planning board, allowing a lot of this to happen, and I do see these timelines getting tighter and tighter. So what I think is you're probably going to see this as a 6-month. We're going to give them 6 months to do something. I don't know that if you come back, you're going to get another approval on it. So
Right.
I would be very, very diligent in moving forward and trying to get him going somewhere, because the neighbors, everybody else, this affects. Okay, so we're kind of stepping out of bounds on this one a little bit, and I would really, really encourage you to go after that 6 months and get it done.
Yes. Well, before we even did this, I did drive down Schindler, which I do every day, and I drove down Soleus north and south. I drove around the Toyon Loop. I went down Cody Road, and I am basically surrounded, not just me, but other neighbors, with junkyards, with camp trailers and broken down vehicles and the tops being blown off and ripped off, looking like junkyards all over the place. You drive down my road, mine looks like it's just kind of sitting there being stored. There's no junk around it, there's no junk vehicles around it, I don't have junk all over my property. I do understand the eyesore, I do understand that, but that is not what we wouldn't allow it on our property in the first place. But comparing what our special circumstances to everything else that's all the way around us, we are surrounded by junkyards, and I'm not gonna let my property be that way. I wish this wouldn't have happened. Eric hasn't lived with us since he was 18 years old. My oldest daughter's almost 40. She hasn't lived with me in over 20 years. I mean, I just, the times are what they are, the economic circumstances are what they are. I am at a loss. I don't know what to do for my kids. I can't pay their bills outside my home. And they're making money, they just don't make as much as what's required for rent, 3 times your income. He has cats and he has a dog, and I don't know. I'm at a loss too.
Thank you. We understand your concerns. We don't really have a good position for general purposes. That's just more of a temporary permit to give someone access to a place to live, to get things arranged. So, we feel 6 months, we can revisit this in 6 months and see how it goes.
Yes.
We can't speak to any other matters in your neighborhood, as you
Yes.
know. So with that said, if no one else has any comments or discussion, I'll ask is there any public comment? Please come forward to the podium. There's a red light there. The podium, sir.
Chip.
That's fine.
Push the red light.
Should turn green. State your name and address for the record.
Chip Bunker, 5111 Soleus Road. I'm on the picture right there next to it.
Yes.
This is more of a general question, because obviously Eric's lived in that house for a month or 2. I don't know how long, but it's right on my driveway and it doesn't bother me. But 2 houses to the south of me, there's a guy in a camp trailer that's on in the same lot, and that house has been there for 2 years. And I just want to understand why there's not a 6 month on that one and there's a 6 month on this one. I'm just confused about it myself. I don't have a problem with Eric at all, and I'm obviously the closest neighbor, but I'm just confused about how one's been there for a year and a half, and I don't see them in here, and now this one, so that's the only question I have.
I understand. And as you know, we really can't speak to other addresses because we don't really know that much information, but we don't know, you don't know, who knows if they do have the proper permitting to be there. That's a discussion that you could come in and have with the planning department, and they could help you discuss those addresses. And then as a neighbor, if you would like to file a concern or a complaint or file with the code enforcement officer, they can check into that matter to see what's going on there. And if they are in violation, then the county will take action.
Well, I don't care if they're in violation, so what would be the process to get a correct permit to allow that?
That would be a question that you need to discuss with the planning department. We, as the commission, would not make that decision.
Okay,
It would start with them.
all right, I'm just, so you know, that's all.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Is there any other public comment? None heard to ask for a decision on them.
Mr. Chairman, Mark Hyde for the record. Based on the information provided in the application and the staff report and heard tonight, I move to find that the criteria found in Churchill County Code 16.08.070 have been met and therefore approve the temporary use permit for temporary quarters for no more than 6 months for George and Ann Taylor. And this approval is subject to conditions as listed in the staff report.
Second.
Motion been made by Commissioner Hyde, seconded by Commissioner Bunyard. Is all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries 4-0. There's a 10-day appeal period for this matter, and at that time, the planning department will contact you to finish the application. Thank you.
Am I free to go? Oh, thank you.
Agenda number 9, new business, letter C. Temporary use permit application for temporary quarters for home construction filed by Henry Schinkel. The property is located at 10,073 Carson Highway. Assessor's parcel number 007-23103, consisting of 22.25 acres in an A10 zoning district. Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of the application? Please come forward. Touch the red button there and make it green, and then state your name and address for the record.
The name is Henry Joseph Schenkel Jr., and I live at 10073 Carson Highway, Fallon, Nevada.
Thank you. Ms. Dukes?
The applicant is requesting a temporary use permit to reside in his RV during home construction. The RV, a 1985 model year travel trailer, is currently set up on a neighboring parcel owned by the applicant, which is shown as number 2 on the site plan. The applicant plans to move it to parcel 007-23103 once power, well, and septic systems are installed, which may have been completed at the time of this meeting. The applicant has secured funding, ordered a new manufactured home, and expects it to be ready in a few months, with funding covering all installation costs. He has obtained a septic permit, drilled a well, and is working with NV Energy for power connection. The primary concern with this application is access, as the parcel has access easements without a physical road and a physical road without access easements. The applicant currently uses a road crossing a Bureau of Land Management parcel from the Carson Highway and has applied to the BLM for permission to continue using it. If not approved, he will construct a road within the existing easements. The fire marshal has provided comment on the access situation and is requiring an all-weather access road that will support a 68,000-pound fire apparatus to within 3,000 feet of any structures, which must be confirmed by a qualified engineer. Based on the applicant's progress with purchasing the new home, securing necessary utilities, and his commitment to resolving the access issues, staff is recommending approval of this application.
Thank you. Does the applicant have anything they wish to add?
Well, certainly well, let me put it this way, I've been working with Ms. Dukes here with at the Palm, I'm sorry, my apologies.
You're fine.
I didn't realize the light went I guess you got to hold it. Working with Ms. Dukes and the folks over here at the Planning and Zoning, I have completed the well because there was nothing on this property prior to about 3 weeks ago. The well is completed and is in functioning, and, well, not functioning, I apologize for that. The well drilling outfit was supposed to come last week to put the pump in. Apparently their one and only pump installer is out with COVID. So that kind of nixed that for the last couple of weeks. Otherwise, they'd be running water today. Okay, the septic system, bought and paid for. The tank is in as of Monday. I'm waiting on the contractor to come back to complete the septic system. We're hoping to have that done somewhere around Tuesday of this coming week. And it's already had the building inspector already out and gave his thumbs up as far as the way that's laid out. So working on it in the last approximately 3 weeks, I've spent $18,000 to try and get compliant with the Churchill County codes. So I'm working on it, and then I'll put the trailer down and get it all hooked up and everything like that. And as far as the electricity from the power poles, you can see where the little dots are. Those are those power poles just south of the buildings that are listed on parcel 22.25 acres. And they're not going to put the electricity in until, of course, I have my loan for my new home. And that brings me right to the fine folks at BLM, which I use their public access road because it comes right past my property line. I spoke with their attorney today. I messed up on item number 7 on the SF 299. I believe I gave you one. I have to rewrite that part. And I talked with the attorney, and they're more than happy to help me with whatever I don't understand, because they sent me a list, and it came right here. They sent me this huge list of stuff that, because the way they make it sound, you think I was putting in a subdivision, knowing that each one of those parcels is a single-family home based on Churchill County planning. So I tried to explain that to the lawyer, but of course, I got to fill out the paperwork. So that will be done and completed by Friday with the help of one of my friends that lives here in Fallon, who has a computer that I actually can use, and that'll be submitted, and then hopefully we can take care of using that BLM road that goes from Carson Highway all the way down to the T Canal. And we should have something with that in the next couple, well, according to the attorney, if I submit that this coming Friday, anywhere from 3 weeks to possibly a year. And that's what it states in their letter. So about that right of way. Otherwise, I'm going to have to spend about $200,000 where you see up on that where it says that 1,800 foot and that says driveway, from that property pin all the way over to where Anderson's hay barn is apparently, is my understanding, is my legal right of way. And I would have to create that through the 22 acres, the 40 acres, and all the way over to the corner into that, what they refer to as a quarter section. That's, you can actually see that road that's there that belongs to BLM. And I'd like to thank these folks for getting on the phone and figuring out that 1902 is when they actually got the land from BOR. That was amazing because their letters to me, it says, we don't own it, but send these forms in. They don't own it, but send these forms in. I talked to her, Miss Blake Dukes here, excuse me, and I told her that. It's like, they wouldn't admit to it. Anyway, it's taken care of. That's the best I could tell you, sir. I'm working on it and spending a bunch of dough.
All right, thank you so much. Is there any questions or discussion from the commission?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Jeff Goings for record. It sounds like you're moving forward, headed down the right path. I have one question, though. Is that BLM road going to meet what the fire marshal is requesting? Or is there going to need to be some kind of, if they get the easement on that BLM road?
The fire marshal is requiring that an engineer or the fire marshal himself comes out to look at the road, but we haven't seen it yet, so I don't have an answer to that.
Okay. No other? Is there any public comment?
I have a comment in regards to that road. I talked with the BLM. I actually went to their office, and that road is actually gravelled. It's not a dirt road. It's actually been modified. It's been upgraded. And I can tell you right now, after yesterday, having 6 dump truck loads of gravel brought in from my septic system, those boys had no problem with their trucks, and those trucks are heavy. Hiscus brought out the rock.
We understand.
So, and I talked to them, and that road and maintaining that road, according to the ROW, right of way, that would be up to me to maintain that road. And of course, I already spoke to an engineer, and I'm waiting on a call back from them as well. That would be Robinson Engineering, and to actually come out and do the surveying and
Okay,
checking on that road.
thank you. Once again, is there any public comment? None heard? Ask for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, Jeff Goings for the record. Based on the information provided in the application staff report and heard tonight, I move to find the criteria found in CCC 16.08.070F have been met, and therefore approve the temporary use permit for temporary quarters during home construction for Mr. Henry Schinkel. The approval, and this approval is subject to the listed staff report, which is showing the conditions. I should have asked you that. You did see these conditions that are in this, that are going to be required here? Mr. Schinkel, did you see those conditions?
I'm sorry.
These would have come with the staff report in May.
Permission must be obtained. Right, the number one, permission must be obtained by BLM. Of course, that's, I just mentioned that, I sent that form in, and of course I have a section I have to redo.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I just want to make sure that you're familiar with these conditions, because we're about ready to pass this motion, but it's going to be subject to these conditions, and I want to make sure that you've read those conditions or understand that there's conditions.
Oh, yeah, that's not a problem, sir.
Okay.
All this stuff is well within my affordable means.
Okay, very good. That's all I needed.
Motion been made by Commissioner Goings, second by Commissioner Bunyard. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 4-0. Mr. Schinkel, there's a 10-day appeal period, at which time the planning department will contact you to finish the process. Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda number 9, new business, letter D, special use permit application for an emergency services facility filed by Reno Highway Properties LLC on behalf of Banner Churchill Community Hospital. The property is located at 4490 Reno Highway. Assessor's parcel number 008-46115, consisting of 3.41 acres in the C1 zoning district. Please state your name and business address for the record.
Name is Alan.
The red, hit the little red thing.
There you go, you're good.
Just tap it and it's turn green. There you go.
All right, let's try it again. Name is Alan Harrison, and you want the facility address, did you say? 4490 Reno Highway.
Mike Burney, 120 North Bailey Street, Fallon, Nevada.
Ms. Dukes?
Hey, Mike, can you turn? Oh, it went off.
Banner Churchill Community Hospital's Emergency Medical Services is a hospital-based ambulance service that covers the entire 5,000 square miles of Churchill County and occasionally provides assistance outside of the county. Banner Churchill EMS is proposing an expansion of their current services to operate on the western side of the community. They will use an existing building leased from Allen and Tracy Harrison. Banner Churchill EMS plans to store ambulances inside the shop and will make several tenant improvements to the building. These improvements include creating a lounge space for emergency medical technicians to rest between calls, 2 restrooms, a break room. The facility will operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and will be staffed with 2 to 4 EMTs at all times. The building will not be open to the public as it is intended solely for the use of EMS personnel. Stockman's Equipment Rental will continue to store their rental equipment on the property as shown on the site plan. This strategic expansion aims to enhance emergency medical response times and coverage in the western areas of Churchill County, ensuring better access to critical care for residents and visitors. In reviewing this application, the Commission has 5 criteria to consider, which are compatibility with existing surrounding land uses, substantial conformance with the master plan and Churchill County Code, that the project will not overburden public services and infrastructure, that the project will adequately mitigate road and traffic impacts, and that the project does not create adverse environmental impacts that may be detrimental to public health, safety, or welfare. These criteria are addressed in detail in the staff report. The only notable concern relates to criteria 5 regarding adverse environmental impacts that could be detrimental to public welfare, which is the potential disturbance to nearby residences caused by the flashing lights and sirens of ambulance vehicles. There is a residential property to the east and a mobile home park across Reno Highway from the property. However, given the predominantly commercial setting, the impact of the EMS service on the neighborhood would be minimal, and the EMS operation is better suited here than in more residential areas of the county where the disturbance could be more significant. A recommended mitigating measure is to not use the sirens until the vehicle has entered the highway. Staff is recommending approval of this application.
Thank you. Does the applicant have anything they'd like to add?
So the only thing I would like to do is ask Steve Town, who's our EMS director, to go ahead and talk about the one safety concern you had, if you don't mind.
Okay,
So-
he can come to the podium
Yeah,
there.
Steve, will come up here.
Just push the red light until it turns green and state your name and business address for the record.
Steve Town for the record, Banner Churchill Community Hospital. Our one mitigating factor with that would be that we would not utilize the siren as we're coming out of the station. We want to be good neighbors, we want to be polite, but we also want to preserve our safety for our staff and the community when responding. So we would reserve the use of sirens as we're approaching the highway to ask for right-of-way during an emergency response. And again, our usage for responding red lights and sirens is only about 35% of our total call volume. So our impact should be very minimal. And with traffic flows at night, we're not anticipating any issues at night.
Thank you. Is there any discussion or questions from the commission? None.
Mr. Chairman, Mark Hyde for the record. First of all, I just want to say it's a great outreach. When you think about the distance from Banner Churchill Community Hospital to our western border of Churchill County, that's a great distance. So I'm very happy to see this. And as I reviewed this, I haven't seen any reason why we would object. So thank you.
Any other? None heard. Is there any public comment? Please come to the podium, touch the red light till it turns green, state your name and address for the record.
Just touch the red light.
Arthur Johnson, and I own the property right next to where they're proposing to do this. And as already been stated, I think this would be a great help on that side of the town. It's a time waster in an emergency to travel clear from the east side of town to the west side of town, and it inconveniences untold numbers of people and endangers lives at times when you're having to go through, red lights and stuff. And the slight inconvenience of the people around there having to hear a siren, they probably hear that same siren if the ambulance went all the way through town and down that road. So in every way, I fully support this and think it's a great move for our community.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Is there any other public comment? None heard. I ask for a motion.
Mr. Chair, Zach Bender for the record. Based on the information provided in the application, in the staff report and heard tonight, I move to find that the criteria found in Churchill County Code 16.08.080H have been met, and therefore approve the special use permit for Banner Churchill Community Hospital EMS. This approval is subject to the conditions as listed in the staff report.
Motion has been made by Commissioner Bunyer, second by Commissioner Hyde. Those in favor? Aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Mr. Harrison, there's a 10-day appeal period, at which time the planning department will contact you to complete the process.
Just a quick comment.
Yes, sir.
I know you've been involved in first responder. I've been involved for 25 years.
Yes.
And one thing that is common, people do not want to see law enforcement, fire personnel, or medical personnel until they need them. And then they want them 10 minutes before you got there. So, as you know, in the near future or semi-distant future, there will be horrific situations, literally matters of life and death. There will be people that survive because of this decision, and they will not know your names or your faces or say thank you. So this may sound somewhat presumptuous of me, but on the behalf of those people, I'm thanking you for the decision you've made this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those kind words.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Agenda number 9, new business, letter E, an application for a variance from the height and size of an advertising sign filed by Arthur Johnson of Monarch Construction LLC. The property is located at 4510 Reno Highway, assessor's parcel number 008-47248, consisting of 1.44 acres in the C2 zoning district. Please state your name and address for the record.
Arthur Johnson, and I own this property at 4510 Reno Highway.
Thank you. Ms. Dukes?
The applicant proposes a 144-square-foot digital advertising sign that is 25 feet tall, located east of Sheckler Cutoff before the Carson River Bridge. The applicant is seeking a variance from both height and size requirements in CCC 16.16.020.6. The request is for a 5-foot or 25% increase from the maximum allowed height of 20 feet and a 4-square-foot or 3% increase from the maximum allowed size of 140 square feet. After reviewing the provided photos and visiting the site in person, our staff observed that the topography of the proposed location of the sign is about 3 feet lower than the adjacent highway. This difference in elevation nearly offsets the requested height increase. Additionally, the 4-square-foot increase in the sign size is due to the electrical components, which are manufactured in standard sizes. The closest size that the manufacturer can produce without making a sign significantly smaller is 144 square feet. Based on the topography of the site and the minimal variance request from the size of the sign due to standard manufacturing specifications, staff is recommending approval of this application.
Thank you. Does the applicant have anything they'd like to add?
I think that pretty well covers it. I'm, looking forward to answering any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Does the commission have any questions or discussions?
Mr. Chairman, Jeff Goings for the record. The only question I have is, okay, so 144 square foot sign, if you want to go less than that, it goes, how much considerably less does it go down to next?
I'm sorry, I didn't prepare that thing.
That's okay.
But they come in increments of 2 square feet.
Okay.
And if you just take out 2 of those, then, there's a block out of the corner and it looks ridiculous. And so I didn't do the math, I'm sorry.
That's all right. I am leading into something else. So maybe this is something we also need to add to our new, updated codes and such, because it sounds to me like a 144 square foot sign is a pretty common sign.
Yeah, we had that discussion. That's an administrative one because it doesn't exceed that. So we just said, we just decided to include both of those in the same.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Mark Hyde, it sounds like because of the topography, Arthur, and based on the report, the land is actually 3 feet lower than the highway. So really, optically, we're looking at a sign that maybe is 1 foot higher than what we normally would require. Am I right in that assumption? And what you're saying is because of the size, if it were to come down, what looks goofy about it? Is it what you're putting on the sign, or help me understand why it doesn't look very good?
So Mr. Harris's property right next door is higher where he comes out, and with the ambulances going to be there and his trucks and such, it's much better if they can look under the sign where there's only the posts and they have good visibility up and down the highway. And it's an attempt to just make everything flow well, and wasn't really trying to even change the rules here or anything, just trying to fit with what would work the best for everybody and be the safest.
Thank you.
Anything? Is there any public comment concerning this matter? None heard? Ask for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, yeah, Mark Hyde for the record. Based on the information provided in the application and the staff report and heard tonight, I move to find that the criteria found in Churchill County Code 16.08.090F have been met, and therefore approve the variances from the height and size requirements for an off-site advertising sign for Arthur Johnson of Monarch Construction. This approval is subject to conditions as listed in the staff report.
The motion been made by Commissioner Hyde, seconded by Commissioner Goen. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries 4-0. There's a 10-day appeal period, right? And at which time they'll contact you to complete the process.
Great, thank you guys.
Thank you. Agenda number 9, new business. Letter G. A special use permit application for a multi-tenant business complex filed by Roberto Urubi and Maria Herrera of Desert Properties, U.S. The property is located at 57 Reno Highway, assessor's parcel number 008-53190, consisting of 2.1 acres in the C2 zoning district. Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of this application? Push the red light and it'll turn green. If you wish to speak, please state your name and business address for the record. You just have to tap it.
Okay.
And it turns green.
Maria Herrera, 5070 Reno Highway, Fallon.
Thank you.
Speaking well.
Okay.
Okay, Rigoberto Uribe.
Okay.
He knows speak Spanish, or English.
Thank you. Ms. Dukes?
The applicants are requesting a special use permit to convert the old Winans Yoder Furniture Building, which has been vacant for some time, into a multi-tenant business complex for commercial businesses. Transitioning from a single-user retail store to a multi-tenant complex necessitates substantial improvements, including a public water system, a commercial septic system, ADA accessibility, parking and access improvements, landscaping, and individual climate and utility access. The project is complicated by the fact that the building had been subdivided and leased to tenants without inspections or permits from the county. The county only became aware of the situation when one of the tenants came in to apply for a business license. Initial inspections revealed that the building had several health, safety, and life issues that had to be addressed immediately. In the 3 months since, the applicants have been working to address these critical issues, and the work is expected to be complete by June 20th. Many substantial improvements, which are detailed in the staff report, will still be required to bring the site into compliance with Churchill County Code. However, the remaining improvements that are not considered health, safety, and life issues, these remaining improvements are not considered health, safety, or life issues, and staff recommends allowing the applicants 12 months to complete the additional work. The most significant issues identified with this project relate to criteria 2 regarding improvements required to be in compliance with Churchill County Code, and criteria 4 regarding road and traffic impacts. Sewer and water facilities are an important issue for this application. This site is currently served by an on-site well and septic system. As a single-user furniture store, it was not required to be regulated by the state as a public water system. However, this development will exceed the thresholds that require state regulation. The applicant will need to obtain all necessary permits from the Bureau of Safe Drinking Water. The existing septic system consists of a 1,000-gallon tank with a single 60-foot leach line. This is likely inadequate for the demand produced by the proposed multi-tenant facility and may require a commercial septic system to be installed. The applicant will need to work with NDEP to make any required upgrades to the septic system and obtain all necessary permits. Parking is also an important issue for this application. The rear of the site has a large open area to be used mostly for parking. There's also parking in the front of the building, and some parking will need to be added along the west side of the building. The project will require a minimum of 70 parking spaces, 3 of which must be ADA compliant. The required parking may be difficult to fit into the available space, and there are some issues with the provided layout which need to be addressed, and the applicant will need to work with staff to submit a final parking plan. Traffic and access are also important issues for this application. Churchill County Code requires that site access must meet county or NDOT standards. NDOT has submitted written comments which require that the wide open access across the frontage be limited to one location, specifically the driveway on the west side of the parking lot, which also provides access to the rear of the building. This driveway will require a paved access apron. This also means an obstruction of some sort needs to be installed along the rest of the frontage. Due to extremely limited space between the parking drive aisle and NDOT right-of-way, this will be most easily accomplished by installing a split rail fence or similarly thin barrier at the edge of the right-of-way. Traffic estimated by the applicant is in the 200 trip per day range. This estimate may be accurate for the current tenant uses. However, future uses may have larger impacts to traffic. NDOT may require a trip generation letter, and all future uses will need to be reviewed by the county individually for additional impacts. Based on the substantial progress made in addressing the critical health, safety, and life issues, the commitment to completing the remaining improvements within the next 12 months, staff is recommending approval of this application.
Thank you. Does the applicant have anything they wish to add?
No, we're working hard to get everything up to code. We're doing step by step.
Okay. Do you have a construction update as of today? The completion rate of what the scope was or anything?
He's been handling everything, but I know that they had to do some firewalls, and they are supposed to be completing that by Friday, and that was supposed to get approved. And then hopefully finishing that, they're doing the ADA bathrooms, which is supposed to be fixed too.
How soon do you know?
I can provide an update on the status as of today. All firewall infills between the units have been completed and inspected by the building department, and the new firewall in Unit C has been installed and inspected today by the building department. They can move forward with completing the grout between the CMU bricks. They will begin construction on the bathroom and ADA ramp in Unit C tomorrow.
Thank you. Is there any discussion or questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, my question is on the, I didn't hear it come up tonight, on the necessary permits for safe water. Has that been done?
It's in the condition. It's in the conditions.
Oh, it's in the condition.
Uh-huh, and then that's something we need to discuss to like, put a time frame on that.
Right.
To like 12 months to have a water system in
And septic.
compliance and a septic system in compliance.
Okay.
And to have met all NDOT regulations. And that's, it's in the conditions, but it doesn't state a time frame.
Gotcha. Thank you.
So we would want to make the motion to include the time frame for those 3 specific items, correct? Incorrect?
Either you could do it individually if you want to have separate timeframes, or you could say that it must be completed within the 1-year timeframe that's set at the beginning of the conditions.
Okay.
Randy, good something to say.
Yes, I'd just like to mention that, you know, the NDOT could take a considerable amount of time in putting a 12-month timeframe on that. It could potentially exceed that, just because it is with the state. And then you got to get it constructed in on top of that. So the septic system needs to be designed and submitted to the state. That could take some time as well. I'm not quite sure what their timeframe is on that. And same thing with the water. So I think we need to probably come up with a plan, or we need to have a plan of some timeframes, but we have to make them achievable as well.
Can we put a timeline of 12 months on the items and then have the applicants, you know, if they can prove that the process that they've taken was in a timely manner and they are now waiting on the others to make it happen?
Yes, any correspondence that
Then
comes
we could
back.
always extend it that way. But if she waits to the last minute to file it, then now that's when we would have a problem. And if we don't put a timeline on it, then, you know, it could just keep on lingering.
Correct. And the concern is, especially with the septic, right, it's a 1,000-gallon tank with a 60-foot line that's not adequate for
That's
what's
correct.
going in there, and that's gonna fail ultimately. So I think the sooner the better, but I'm just saying the timeframes could be longer, so.
Yes, but you understand that if you get started in a timely manner, and then you can show us proof that you're moving forward, and then if it does take longer, then we can always extend it. But if you wait to the 11th month, then your due diligence wasn't done, and therefore it could be a problem.
Yes.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion or questions?
Just another quick question. Is there any timeline on when they expect to have C of O?
Discussions with staff in the building department, we've talked about issuing a temporary C of O after June 20th when the health, safety, and life issues are addressed.
And this approval would also be contingent on the C of O, temporary C of O. All right. No other discussion heard. Is there any public comment? None heard. I ask for a motion on this to include the time frame for the completion of NDOT, the water, and the septic, and then also make sure the contingency of the C of O is in there as well.
Mr. Chair, I'll just note the C of O is currently considered within the recommended conditions, number 2C. I also suggest that the conditions already consider a 1-year review hearing by this board to show the substantial progress. And so if you want to consider a tighter timeframe than 1 year, please add it to your motion. If you want to consider 1 year or longer, then it's already covered.
So, Zach Bunyard for the record. Based on the information provided in the application and the staff report and heard tonight, I move to find that the criteria found in Churchill County Code 16.08.080 have been met, and therefore approve the special use permit and application for Roberto Uribe and Maria Herrera for the multi-tenant business complex. This approval is subject to the conditions as listed in the staff report.
Motion been made by Commissioner Bunyard, second by Commissioner Goings. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries 4-0. There's a 10-day appeal period, at which time the planning department will contact you to complete the process.
Okay, thank you.
Agenda number 9, new business. Letter H, special use permit application for personal training classes filed by Dan Mueller of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Fallon. The property is located at 5070 Reno Highway. Assessor's parcel number 008-53190, consisting of 21 acres in the C2 zoning district. Hello? Tap the red light, turn it green, state your name and address for the record.
All right, lights are to green, so Dan Muller, business address 5070 Reno Highway.
Thank you. Ms. Dukes?
The applicant is requesting a special use permit to open a jiu-jitsu school called Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Fallon. The applicant has leased a 6,100 square foot space in the multi-tenant business complex, which was heard earlier on this agenda. Normally, leasing space within an approved multi-tenant complex ensures that the building has already undergone thorough code compliance review and meets all necessary requirements for business operation. However, in this instance, units were leased prematurely before the building was fully prepared. The landlord is currently working diligently to bring the entire building up to code. These efforts are detailed in the multi-tenant complex's special use permit, which addresses collective improvements pertinent to the building rather than individual tenants. It's important to note that all health, safety, life, and code compliance requirements specific to this applicant's unit have been satisfactorily completed, and the remaining health, safety, life improvements in other areas of the building are expected to be completed by June 20th. The jiu-jitsu business will offer classes for children and adults and proposes an initial class schedule of 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday and 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. on Saturdays. The interior area will feature an open floor plan with approximately 3,100 square feet of vinyl-covered mats where the classes will take place. There will be a small kiosk-style desk, changing areas, a water fountain, and an ADA-compliant restroom. Daily operations are expected to include 2 employees and 40 students. No exterior modifications or storage areas are proposed. In reviewing this application, the Commission has 5 criteria to consider, which are compatibility with existing surrounding land uses, substantial conformance with the master plan and Churchill County Code, that the project will not overburden public services and infrastructure, that the project adequately mitigates road and traffic impacts, and that the project does not create adverse environmental impacts that may be detrimental to public health, safety, or welfare. These criteria are addressed in detail in the staff report. The only notable concern relates to criteria 5 regarding adverse environmental impacts that could be detrimental to public welfare, which is the potential disturbance to nearby commercial and agricultural operations from typical pedestrian traffic and noise levels between the jiu-jitsu school and the parking area, and the potential for dust to be generated in the large parking area. To mitigate potential dust issues for nearby properties and residents, the parking area has been gravelled. Based on the applicant's unit being entirely up to code and all necessary findings being met, staff recommends approval of this application.
Thank you. Does the applicant have anything they would like to add or concur with that information?
Just briefly, just wanted to offer big thank you to the Commission and especially the planning team and the building department. They've been absolutely instrumental every step of the way walking us through this. So thank you to the team for this, and I'm glad to be here. I'm very excited to bring a business like this to Churchill County and meeting whatever additional criteria required.
Thank you. Is there any discussion or questions for the applicant?
Jeff Goings for the record. I just want to make sure, checking on these recommendations, you're aware of all of the recommendations that are in this motion that we're looking at right here, and that you're completely comfortable with everything that we've got in here. Specifically, number 3, which is class times will be staggered by 30 minutes to reduce the overlap in parking demand.
Yes, sir, that is
Okay.
correct. So we have been given the extensive list, been making improvements as we go, have made substantial improvements to the facility that we are leasing as well as the entire facility. And yes, the class times, while they're not completely final yet, we are planning on doing a 30-minute break in between classes to prevent the traffic congestion for the property and the surrounding area.
Any other? None heard. Is there any public comment? No public comment. I ask for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, Mark Hyde for the record. Based on the information provided in the application and the staff report and heard tonight, I move to find that the criteria found in Churchill County Code 16.08.080 have been met, and therefore approve the special use permit application for Dan Mueller of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Fallon. This approval is subject to conditions as listed in the staff report.
Motion has been made by Commissioner Hyde, seconded by Commissioner Goins. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries 4-0. There's a 10-day appeal period, at which time the planning department will contact you to complete the process.
Thank you.
And welcome to Fallon. Agenda number 9, new business. Letter I, special use permit application for an outdoor club and game hunting facility filed by Chip Bunker of Lahontan Valley Bird Dog Club. The property is located on Fitz Lane, assessor's parcel number 009-23115, consisting of 201.79 acres in an A10 zoning district. Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of the application? Just touch the red button, make it green, state your name and address for the record if you wish to speak.
Walter Goodman, home address 2868 Trento Lane. Property is located on Fitz Lane, parcel number 009-23115.
Okay. Ms. Dukes?
The Lahontan Valley Bird Dog Club is requesting a special use permit for a game hunting ranch near Stillwater National Wildlife Refuge on a parcel they are purchasing from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. A game hunting ranch is not an exact match for the proposed use, but the director has determined that the use is most similar to a game hunting ranch that also has occasional events. The Lahontan Valley Bird Dog Club, which has been operating in Fallon for about 15 years, is relocating after losing their lease on their current location. The club plans to establish a new area for training hunting dogs with live birds and hosting hunting dog competitions. Specific hours of operation are not proposed, as club members may visit the site on their own time to train their dogs individually or in small groups. Most visits will be on the weekends. Large competitions are typically held twice a year, though they may be held more often than that. The club will develop a parking area, an access trail for ATV and foot traffic, and a bird pen for keeping live birds. Additionally, they will place one shipping container on site for storing equipment used during the training and competitions. The club will also set up an area for event headquarters and gun safety instruction, as well as an area with portable toilets and hand washing stations. In reviewing this application, the commission has 5 criteria to consider, which are compatibility with existing surrounding land uses, substantial conformance with the master plan and Churchill County Code, that the project will not overburden public services and infrastructure, that the project adequately mitigates road and traffic impacts, and that the project does not create adverse environmental impacts that may be detrimental to public health, safety, or welfare. These criteria are addressed in detail in the staff report. The only notable concern relates to criteria 1 and 5 regarding compatibility with surrounding land uses and public safety. Specifically, staff is concerned that the firing of shotguns could result in pellets leaving the property, which creates a potential hazard to surrounding properties and the public. The application references setting back activities to avoid problems with adjacent properties. Staff recommends a safety buffer of 50 yards to be established around the perimeter of the training and competition area where shooting cannot take place. Staff is recommending approval of this application.
Thank you. Does the applicant concur, and do you have any other comments?
No, I'd just like to state that, we have been in operation for 15 years, and we have not had any instances. We were on Bernie Road. We had 160 acres out there, and we've been operating very, very similarly in that time period and never had any instances or events of any negative nature regarding safety or any harm whatsoever.
Do you have anything?
Yeah, just to kind of reiterate, we've been doing this for a while on a piece of Navy property, and they've reallocated it. So we needed to find a new spot. This is the spot we got, and we pretty much plan on doing the exact same thing that we've been doing there over here. So we're pretty familiar with how to work that. As far as the safety buffer area there, the red outlined area there is pretty much going to be the primary area. And there's 2 houses that are within a half mile, Trevor de Braga and Lester de Braga, and they are way out of the zone of a shotgun that we deal with. This isn't rifle, this is just shotguns for birds.
Thank you. Is there any discussion or questions from the commission?
I just had a question, Mark Hyde for the record, Mr. Chairman. So in the staff report, you're saying that the surface gravel needs to be improved to support fire vehicles and reduce dust and mud, but I don't see it in any of the conditions.
It was removed from the conditions as they're not proposing any buildings at this time. Should they propose buildings in the future, they will need to meet the requirements requested by the fire marshal.
I'd also like to make a comment. This was purchased from U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and phase 1 will be, we've been granted access, and we've been clearing the ground. That will be and one of the very positive things that U.S. Fish and Wildlife was interested in, is we will spend quite a bit of money irrigating and planting native grasses. So it's going to stay, 201 acres is going to stay in natural habitat and actually be enhanced significantly over the 3 phases or of development for the bird dog training area.
Thank you. Is there any public comment concerning this matter? Please come forward. Push the red button, just tap it till it turns green, state your name
It's
and address.
green now.
All right, name and address?
David Holmgren. My actual address is 104 Finger Rock Wash, Looning, Nevada. But I do own what was the Lawson property on Swope Lane, 1100 Swope. And that's why I'm here, is I want to be up front because I deal with the public 100 miles from town. And when they get there, they think it's their world. So Swope Lane, if you look at a map, you come down Stillwater, you can easily jut off on Swope and go over to Fitz and to this project. So if people get in the habit or think it's cool to go that way, instead of stay on the highway and go to Fitz, then it'll be a fairly significant impact on Swope Lane and our quiet, peaceful little roundabout there. There's about 3 or 4 of us. The Braggers are one, Dodson's another, Ernst another, and me. And they're just little ranch farm areas. So sometimes it's a lot the public doesn't understand your quiet environment. I own the Rawhide Ranch in Mineral County. It's quiet to me, and it's a lot of land, but it isn't real quiet when Best in the Desert or Legacy or these road races get all hyped up, and they do drive fast, and they think I'm in their way. And I've nearly been run over. They've run over one of my dogs and killed it. I've watched these people travel 361 highway, and they purposely run over my calves. Baby calves, I've watched them do it. They got big jacked up trucks, and they purposely run them over. And so it sounds maybe like I'm exaggerating, but when people get in a habit, it's real hard to to break that habit. So I'm getting in on the front of this. I'm telling you that I've watched this happen over and over. And they come down county roads, they don't even get over. I'm coming down the road with a water truck, for instance, and here they come head on at me. I'm the one getting over. They got a smaller vehicle. I'm hauling a load. I got tires that are going to go off in the rocks. And I just see a lot of that, okay? So Swope Lane is a quiet little place. And so they can just stay on the highway and just go right on down to Fitz.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Would the applicant like to speak to mitigating that issue? It's a members only group, is that correct? So I mean, I guess you could sort of.
Yeah, you've got to be a member to go out there to train your dogs and do that kind of stuff. We do have a couple, I don't want to call them public events, but AKC dog events that we do out there twice a year, tops.
Yep.
So very limited deal there. Most people are just simply going to drive down Stillwater to Fitz and turn up because it's paved all the way over there instead of taking the gravel all the way around Swope.
Okay. We assume that you would probably sort of just mention that, right, as the members, like this is the easiest way to get here. And if you did have an event, you'd probably post signs of this is how you get there and mitigate that issue.
Yeah,
Maybe
the
something
maps,
like that.
the maps we send out to people trying to
Okay.
get to there will show going down Stillwater to Fitz.
So hopefully it doesn't become a problem and we move on. Okay, thank you. Is there any other public comment? Is that green? Is the light green?
It's already green,
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm Ted DeBraga. My family's been there for 110 years, 115 and stuff, and we own approximately 400 acres. In fact, I owned this property for 10 years and farmed it for Dr. McCuskey for 30 years and stuff. The one road, the main road that the people will use to get to this property is Stillwater Road to get Fitz Lane right straight down. They can come, as Mr. Oldham said, down Swope Lane there. Swope Lane. But the main people that are going to be coming there are going to come on Fitz Lane. And we own approximately 400 acres, borders that. My grandson, Trevor DeBraga, my son, Lester DeBraga, and stuff. And like I say, we've been there for over 100 years. We hunted that area for years and years. A lot of people have hunted it. There's been no problems there in the past, and I doubt whether will be now. Newcomers come in. They want to change everything that's been going on for years. It's been no problems. So what the club wants to do is no problem. All they might have a shoot or two a year out there on the property, but otherwise there's going to be not much more traffic than what's on there on a daily basis. So to deny it on account of somebody coming down the road and stuff, I wouldn't be in favor of that. I hope this committee doesn't agree to that either. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? None heard. Ask for a motion.
Mr. Chair, Zach Brennan for the record. Based on the information provided in the application and the staff report and heard tonight, I move to find that the criteria found in Churchill County Code 16.08.080H have been met and therefore approve the special use permit for Chip Bunker and Lahontan Valley Bird Dog Club. This approval is subject to the conditions listed in the staff report.
Motion been made by Commissioner Bunyard, second by Commissioner Goins. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries 4-0. 10-day appeal period, which time the planning department will contact you to complete the process. Thank you very much. Thanks, guys. Agenda number 9, letter J. Major special use permit application for Phase 1 of the Sierra Solar Renewable Energy Facility, accompanied by request for multiple communications towers, filed by Christine Apican of NV Energy. The properties are located on Sage Hen Creek Road, north of Interstate 80 Nightingale exit. Assessor's parcels number 004-33101, 004-33111, 004-35102, 004-35103, 004-35104, 004-35105, 004-35107, 004-35108, 004-35109, 004-35110, 004-35111, 004-35114, 004-35115, 004-35116, 004-35121, 004-35122, and 004-35136 in the RR20 zoning district. Good evening. Please state your name and address for the record. Make it green.
There we go. Christina Pekian, 7155 South Lindell Road in Las Vegas.
Thank you. Mr. Patterson.
Thank you, Dean Patterson, for the record. What you have is an application for a large solar power facility. NV Energy has submitted several applications for the project located in the Brady Hot Springs area on Sage Hen Creek Road. This is a very large facility that'll be built in two phases, with the full solar power facility estimated to produce approximately 1,000 megawatts of power. Phase 1 is planned to produce 400 megawatts, and Phase 2 will produce 600. The special use permit for Phase 2 will be submitted later. The full project is expected to be completed before 2032. This facility is likely to be the largest individual solar facility in the U.S. and one of the largest in the world, though such distinctions change quickly. And of course, some areas like Las Vegas have multiple large facilities. Phase 1 will be larger than most of the largest existing facilities in the U.S., with the bulk of the facilities occupying most or much of 5 square miles. Additional facilities occupy small portions of other parcels, including the associated power transmission lines and associated communication towers on nearby hilltops. Phase 2 will be developed in the future and is expected to occupy a larger amount of additional land. And to give you a comparison, the city of Fallon is about 3.5 square miles. The facility has 3 major components that need special use permits. A major special use permit is needed for the major power generation facility, which is regulated as a renewable energy facility in county code. A general special use permit is needed for the transmission lines proposed to connect the solar facility to the state transmission line grid. A general special use permit is needed for the 2 communication towers proposed to serve only the facility, and these are located on APN 004-35105. I should note that 4 towers are shown in the submittal application, so if you'll look in I think it's Appendix A, you'll see 4 different tower configurations, but only 2 are in Churchill County. The other 2 are in other counties. Along with the application for the special use permit, there's a request for 4 variances from different code standards. One is to reduce the road or front setbacks, mainly for solar arrays, from 60 feet on roads of over 25 miles an hour down to 30 feet, and also to reduce the rear setbacks from 40 feet to 30 feet. One variance is to waive the landscaping requirements normally required along roads and in parking lots. One is to waive the renewable energy facility coloration requirements on the battery storage units and inverters. The last variance is to waive the stream protection and easement requirement for streams passing through the property. FYI, there are multiple road amendments that have already been approved to relocate roads through the properties to the perimeter of the properties, so the Planning Commission has seen that part of the project already. See if I can get this to work. Oh, someone's changing it. That one. So as far as the location, the site's located approximately 20 miles northeast of Fernley. Fernley being down here. So it's going west on I-80, northeast to the Brady Hot Springs interchange, also called the Nightingale interchange, and it's a couple miles north of that interchange. You'll see it, the yellow squares on the drawing indicate the location. It's in the Hot Springs Flat Valley with parts of the project in North Valley. So I don't think I can point it out at this scale. These lands are in the checkerboard area of the county, so federal lands abut each side of the applicant's lands. The first phase will be in the north half, nearest to the power transmission lines. So here are the project properties. The transmission lines go through the county in the northwest corner. The phase 2 of the project will be south of there, closer to the freeway. And as I said before, that will require additional permit review. I want to note that you read a very long list of parcels, and so I want to point out that more than half of those parcels listed in the application will not have actual solar facilities on them, but rather are only involved due to a corner crossing where a road or power line needs to cross kitty corner from one project property to another across the checkerboard corner points. So permission to cross those small triangular corners of a non-project property have to get obtained. And so that's what a corner crossing easement is. I'd like to go through a quick summary of the project components. The solar arrays, well, these are described in detail in the application materials, and so I'm not going to go into great detail. The solar arrays are on about 2,500 acres of valley floor. Solar panels are mounted on steel pilings driven into the ground. Panels that are approximately 8 feet long will be mounted on rotating sun tracking mechanisms with a high point of rotation about 12 feet above ground, although that can vary. The power inverters. Oh, so here's a picture of the solar array. You'll notice in this picture, this project in the picture is using a minimal disturbance strategy. So they don't clear and grade the entire site. They leave the vegetation in place. So the applicants are proposing this approach for this project for much of the area. That's an example of areas that would not use the minimal disturbance strategy. So you can see it's pretty much cleared with the panels on it. There's also power inverters interspersed among the solar array groupings to concentrate and alter power. Well, the upper picture is the inverter. You can see it's white, which is one of the variance requests. The REF coloration requirement would require them to be repainted a different color to blend in with the environment. Below that picture, you can see also the battery yard. So those are also white. These are pre-painted, manufactured at time of manufacturing, and we'll talk about those shortly. Within the solar, the energy collection system is throughout the solar arrays, connecting all the power handling components and passing power to the substation. mostly through underground cabling. The battery energy storage system, which the applicant calls the BESS, allows power to be stored and distributed as needed and is located along Sage Hen Creek Road. So that is located, here's Sage Hen Creek Road, and so there's 3 components located here: the battery storage facility, the substation, and the operations and maintenance building. And, sorry. Nearby is the staging area, which is a large area that'll be used for bringing in materials and then distributing them throughout the project. So the operations and maintenance building is the central power control office and employee facilities, and it's located on Sage Hen Creek Road. Another component of the project is the gen tie line. It's a generation tie line. The applicant calls it the gen tie line. Sends power from the facility westward to the lantern switching station, which is another component. So the gen tie line will run along the perimeters to leave the solar array area, go over the hills, and eventually it gets over here. But the gen tie line stops at the lantern switching station. I'm not sure why they call it the lantern switching station, so you might be able to elaborate. The switching station routes power to the above-ground power transmission lines. It's located on the hills west of the solar arrays, and that is also the road to North Valley. So here's the road currently from Sage Hen Creek over the hills, and it goes to North Valley where the transmission lines are. Another component is the line-fold transmission lines. They call it the line-fold, and maybe you folks can describe a little more about that. These transmission lines connect the lantern switching station westward over the hills to the main transmission lines. So it's right here. You can see there's 2. I think that's why they call it a fold. It brings the power off of the transmission line to the switching station and then takes it back. I think I got that right. There's 2 communication towers of different configurations. They are near the lantern switching station, one I think in the yard and one nearby. They're dedicated to and provide data communication for the solar facilities. And then, of course, there's internal driveways, the abandonment, replacement roads that you've reviewed before, and, of course, fencing, gates, and security systems around the different facilities. Those will not be obstructing the public access roads around the area. So that's a summary of the project, and I'll let the applicant do their presentation. Afterward, I can summarize the specific issues in the review.
Thank you. Would you like to summarize as he spoke, or if you would like to add any information?
Thank you, Dean. That was a great summary of the, yes, it's green. Can you hear me okay? Okay. That was an excellent introduction and summary of the project, but I'll add a few notes. So the project is a very important source of renewable energy for the state. It would help NV Energy meet its renewable portfolio standard requirements, which would be to have meet 50% renewable energy by 2030, and we're working towards 100% renewable energy by 2050. It would also greatly benefit the county in that there would be over $72 million in tax benefits that would go to the county over the life of the project, and approximately $10 million in tax benefits that would go to the state over the life of the project. And at the peak of construction, we will have upwards of 500 full-time employees for the course of the construction period which we expect to be between 2.5 and 3 years. And so I think that would also be a benefit to the county's economy. I want to touch on our schedule. We're expecting to be in construction by September of this year. We'd like to start with grading of the substation and Best Yard, and then we'll move on to begin grading the lantern switching station areas, and then we expect to be in full construction by January of 2025. The first part of the project, which would be the BEST scope, and that would include the BEST facility, which are the battery energy storage systems supplied by Tesla. We're using the Megapacks 2XL is what the model is. And the project substation, along with the Gentai line and lantern switching station, will all be completed by May of 2026, and then followed by the solar facility to be completed, along with the O&M building to be completed by February of 2027. We'll likely be out in the field for a few months after that to complete the punch work and fully complete the project. And so that's our schedule, our projected schedule. I do want to note that we have 2 EPC contractors. Kiewit will be constructing the solar field and the O&M building, and ECI will be constructing the battery energy storage system, the project substation, the lantern switching station, and the Gentai line. NV Energy will construct, our transmission team will construct the 3422 line fold into lantern. And that, if we can go to that slide, the transmission slide, yes. You can see there, that's the 3422 line fold into lantern that connects to the 345 line that's existing there. And it traverses 2 parcels that are not owned by NV Energy. However, we are currently in the process of obtaining our grant of easement from each of the landowners there. We currently have a right of entry executed for both parcels, and we just completed the appraisal of the easement areas for each parcel, and we have the grant of easement documents drafted and ready for execution, and we expect to have those documents executed within the next month or so. If we can switch over to the microwave towers, yes. So those are just samples, those are samples of the monopole tower and the elevation for the lantern tower to the right. And you can see in the map there, we'll have 2 poles or microwave towers in the lantern area, and then the other 2 down on the bottom left of the map will be located at Eagle Ridge North and Comstock Meadows. Comstock Meadows will be an additional monopole in the existing facility, and at Eagle Ridge North, we'll just be adding some dishes to the existing facility. If we can flip back to the first, yes, Sierra Solar Phase 1, yes. I'm just gonna run through some numbers. I think this project is exceptional, and I think it's interesting to understand how large it is in size. And so for our BESS facility, which would be generating 400 megawatts of storage, with a 4-hour battery, there are 456 Tesla Megapacks that we'll be using in that facility. We have over 1.1 million solar panels that would be installed in the solar fields, and those are First Solar Series 7 bifacial panels. And then the other equipment that I'd like to note is our inverters. There are 115 SMA inverters that would be installed in our field, in our solar field. We also expect to install between 2 to 4 wells during the construction period. And we expect to utilize 250 acre-feet of water per year during the construction phase of the project. And we have an existing water right that will be transferred to NV Energy from the previous landowner as part of our purchase and sale agreement with them. And we will be able to utilize 9 acre-feet of water from that existing source for the O&M building, and that would be ongoing. Okay, I think that concludes my presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Remind the commission this is discussion only. Is there questions or
Mr. Chairman, Jeff Goings for the record. Just a couple of quick questions. You stated that, what's the life expectancy of a project like this? What is its life expectancy? How many years?
We expect the project to last about 30 years.
30 years. And then, I don't think the other question I had was on these easements for it's called the switch lines. I'm sorry.
The line fold, yes.
Yeah, the light fold lines, okay. And that is an ongoing, what happens if that falls apart? I'm sure it's not, but I'm just curious, It seems like you've got a lot designed there on a property that you don't even have yet, so that's why I was curious.
Right. That would derail the project. However, we're confident. We're there. We're going to get those signatures.
I guess the piggy bank, I had that written down too, Jeff, because you're pretty confident, right? But have you reached an agreement they just haven't signed? Is that what you mean by confident, or you think that?
It's a matter of scheduling the meeting to have them sign and notarize.
Yeah, so they've agreed.
They've agreed
to it. Yeah. Okay,
that's
I was just to carry that a little farther. The other one that kind of caught me a little bit as we talked about this project. So you said that the revenue generated was going to be about 78 million to the county?
Approximately 72.
Yeah, so can you kind of dive into that a little bit? Was that through other economic development, or was that actual tax revenue to the county?
I did not do the calculations myself. These are based on the most recent calculations and estimates from our team Mark, yeah, thank you.
Mark Warden, NB Energy for the record. Yes, that's based on abated tax revenue. I can't give you the exact breakdown today in front of you, but it's calculated based on current law and with the current taxes that would be generated by the facility based on property and sales and use taxes. And that is calculated assuming we would receive an abatement from the Governor's Office of Energy. So it wouldn't be at the standard rate, but it would be at an abated rate.
Yeah, and I knew that you were working at that abatement rate. So it was a big time reduction in taxes to the county having that, you know. So I was just curious on that, you know, how we got to 72 million.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure. I
I'm still
understand the
curious
question.
on how we got to the 72 million, you know, just in real
Over the
estate.
life- over the
Yeah,
life of the project,
It's
yeah.
a 30-year project.
Right, it's based on the anticipated abatement that the project would receive from the Governor's Office of Energy.
So that's the abated rate.
Correct.
Yeah. No, yeah, which is a reduction in the rate, correct?
Right, so typically in the state of Nevada, to encourage the development of these projects, as we transition to a renewables economy, the Governor's Office of Energy provides the opportunity for these projects to receive abated tax rates. And so that is the rate, or the number that was expressed was based on that abated amount that we anticipate receiving. We have not yet received it. We're in the process of making those applications.
Yeah, I guess I'm not being clear enough, I guess, to understand it. I know the abated amount is a reduction because it benefits you to pursue a project because you have a reduced tax amount is the
Correct.
abated amount,
That's
right?
correct.
But that doesn't, how does that benefit the county by allowing that project? That's where I'm getting at. The $72 million benefit to the county that you indicated, how does that come? Does that come from the governor's office to us that way on that difference?
So what we'll have is we will have our standard property taxes. Our standard property taxes without an abatement would be significantly above the 72 million, at least my understanding. But in this case, we would have a standard tax roll and the 72 million would come through that, assuming, obviously I haven't seen the calculation, so it may assume that there's only standard depreciation, no special depreciation, no unique requests. You know, some of that has different ways to calculate the property tax, obviously, and we've had that before. But my understanding from the presentation is that given the size of the facility, the 72 million would be property taxes regularly incurred post-abatement.
That's correct. So you'd receive the sales and use tax at the time of the operation of the facility on the equipment, and then the property taxes would be provided to the county during the normal tax collection process. It would just be at a reduced rate if the abatement is granted.
So are all of the, I'm sorry, did I interrupt here? Okay. Are all of the buildings, there's going to be some operation and maintenance areas, all of that. Is that also abated?
The abatement's on the entire project.
On the entire project?
On the
So
entire
anything
project.
encompassed in that project
That
is
is correct.
subject to abatement?
That's correct.
Can you speak to if there's going to be any glare or from this project or the concerns of that or anything? Just,
We did,
Mr. Chair, I know Dean had put some of that in his report, and he was going to, I think, go over those,
Okay.
and so it may
I may have forgot to
speed things
call on
along
you.
if we go through a prepared report.
I apologize for that. I did forget to call back on you.
Well, I mean, you were having a good conversation, so I don't need to interrupt that, but if you want me to go ahead, just let me know. Okay. So just to continue with the staff report review, the The staff report provides a review of the 5 special use permit criteria, which identifies a number of specific issues that result in conditions of approval. Criteria 1 is about compatibility with a nearby area. The staff report did not find any compatibility issues. Criteria 2 is about conformance with the master plan and county code. Staff report reviewed the normal code subjects and found only minor conformance issues except for those related to the requested variances, which we'll go over shortly. Any issues have issues have conditions of approval recommended for them. The staff report also reviewed the Renewable Energy Facility Code and found only minor conformance issues, except of course for the REF coloration requirement variance. Some issues have conditions of approval recommended for them as well. These include coordination with NAS Fallon, addressing traffic impacts on road maintenance, obtaining water for construction and operations, and as you heard a second ago, this is underway in a satisfactory manner, providing closure, removal, and post-closure plan with a bond, and providing monitoring reports for both weeds and glare. Criteria 3 is about public services and infrastructure. The main issue under this criterion is that large battery facilities can be prone to fire and explosions, along with the potential for hazardous firefighting conditions and hazardous materials being released. This is not normal or expected, but like a fuel storage facility, you need to have containment protocols, and staff recommends that a containment and contamination cleanup plan be developed. Criteria 4 is about road and traffic impacts during construction and operations. There will be a lot of traffic during construction, about 20 large delivery trucks per day, and workforce traffic of around 460 persons, according to the submittal. The traffic will use the I-80 interchange and Sage-Hen Creek Road. NDOT and the road department have been notified of the project. So no comments have been received from NDOT, and staff recommends a condition of approval that their requirements be met. The road supervisor is satisfied with their code requirement for a road maintenance agreement so that any damage to the road during construction is repaired. Lastly, staff recommends a condition that modern public road easements be established for all the roads on the project property, including Sage-Hen Creek Road and the road to North Valley. Criterion 5 is about environmental impacts. There are many identified potential impacts in the staff report, and these often result in recommended conditions, most of which are fairly standard, but a few are worth pointing out. One issue is the potential for glare impacts, which you were asking about a second ago. That's discussed in detail in the staff report. While glare should not be a problem based on the glare study that was provided, the points of glare do get close to the roads in some locations, being 17 feet above the road in one location. There is a recommended condition to require monitoring of glare on local roads to account for the discrepancies between the study data and on-the-ground conditions. So the study data may have inaccurate or information that real-life conditions may find result in a different outcome. Another issue is covering multiple square miles of land with solar panels. There's no threatened or endangered species, but the Nevada Department of Wildlife has expressed concerns about migrating wildlife, and also the applicant's study noted the potential to encourage invasive weeds. Another issue relates to the variance to waive the stream protection requirements. At this location, streams mainly pass flash flood waters and the sediment that those floods move. Covering the stream pathways with panels should have minimal impacts to that, but the grading plan shows some extensive grading of ravines and deep fill in the channels up to the property lines, which will increase flooding and sedimentation on adjacent properties. A recommended condition would not allow this. As I understand it, the the applicant provided some additional information that that was a preliminary grading plan, and it should not be a problem to deal with the potential issue of causing additional flooding and sedimentation on adjacent properties. In addition, property line fencing that captures debris, flood flows, and sediment would also do the same thing, and a recommended condition would not allow that either. The staff report recommends approval of this special use permit. The other part of the project is the 4 variance applications that have been submitted and are reviewed against the variance criteria on the staff report. So as I said, there's 4 regarding the setback variance. The request is to reduce the road and rear setbacks, mainly for solar arrays, because the roads are following around the solar array areas. Staff recommends approval, but recommends simplifying the variance to be all setbacks reduced to 30 feet except for Sage Hen Creek Road, which would remain 60 feet. Regarding the landscape variance, the request is to waive all substantive landscaping requirements. Staff recommends approval since this is a remote desert location. Regarding the REF coloration variance, the request is to waive the coloration requirements to allow the pre-painted white color for the BESS and inverter components, which are prefabricated. Staff recommends approval since darker colors could increase interior heat and electronics function. Regarding the stream protection variance, the request is to waive the stream protection and easement requirements so that streams can be graded and rerouted around component facilities and so that panels can be installed within the stream channels. This includes the steep areas adjacent to streams such as ravines, gullies, and steep-sided washes. The staff report does not have a recommendation and leaves it to the Planning Commission. The consequences are discussed under the SUP criteria relating to environmental impacts. And that's all I have, so with that, I can answer any questions.
Thank you.
Dean, did I hear, or I think I heard you right there, NDOW's been involved? Or has NDOW made their recommendations on this in any, or have they been involved at all? I'm just curious where NDOW is with this.
They did provide a comment letter, especially having concerns with migration patterns of wildlife in the area, probably the larger animals like antelope, similar animals. There's a state law requiring communication, I guess, between a major power generator and NDOW. As I understand it, Christine has been in contact with them. She could probably provide the latest information about their communications.
So we've been in contact with NDOW, and other than what Dean just expressed, they haven't made any additional comments.
And with respect to the migration, this is the checkerboard area, so we'll only be fencing the 1 square mile of the checkerboard that's our property, and so the rest of it will be open in between, right? So it's not like there's going to be, I don't know what it would be, 4 miles or 5 miles of completely fenced land. It's just going to be 1 mile at a time, and the intervening sections will be open and they'll be crossing. So I wouldn't think that it would inhibit any migration in that way.
Christine, on a similar vein, I understand we have not had any communication with NAS Fallon, but I understand you have, so perhaps you can fill us in about that. One of the requirements of the Renewable Energy Facility Code is coordination with NAS Fallon.
Yes, that effort is ongoing. They're supportive, and we'll continue to work with them. This is really the latest from them.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, Mark Hyde for the record. I guess my first of all, I want to make a statement. I'm really happy to see this project. I mean, we could be here talking about a hazardous waste facility, right? But we're talking about something that's going to benefit not only the citizens of this county, but the state of Nevada. So I'm grateful for that. I do have some questions for you, but before I ask you those questions, Christine, a question to Dean. Why do you feel that the setback should be 40 feet at Sage Hen?
I'm sorry, could you ask that again?
Sure.
It was a little muffled.
You're saying that we'll reduce the setback to 30 feet except at Sage Hen, and I'm just asking why. Why do we want to not
Sure.
give that 30 feet?
So, the way the code's set up, if you have a road that's over 25 miles an hour, an extra 30 feet is added on to the setback. So the base setback is 30 feet, you add another 30 feet, and that becomes 60. When it comes to the old solar arrays, which is where most of these roads are going to be next to,
Right.
Staff didn't feel like that it was a problem to reduce the setback to the base of 30 feet. But since there are, with Sage Hen Creek Road, there are trucks going by at much faster speeds than, you might find around the perimeter roads, around the solar arrays. It just was made more sense to keep that area at 60 feet. The applicant's materials also show that it's 60 feet too.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Hyde, we designed it to the 60 feet anticipating that.
Very good. Couple of questions. First of all, on the variance for the REF coloration, I was wondering why we want to get a variance for that. I think it's, if I read this correctly, and by the way, it's a wonderful presentation, but it's almost like there's nobody going to be out there, and so I don't know if we have to worry about safety. And I'm thinking about there's two BLM permits, actually, grazing permits, where you do have individuals who are pushing cows or whatever. I'm just wondering why we're saying, if I'm understanding this correctly, on REF coloration, we're saying we want a variance so we don't have to label things.
The question is about the color variance?
Right.
Yes. So there is a thermal impact on the equipment itself and the function of the equipment if they're colored in a darker color than the white that they are pre-manufactured.
No, maybe I'm misunderstanding. I thought the REF coloration was a system of coding and coloring items for protection. That's not the case?
No, my understanding.
Yeah.
My understanding is just simply to make it blend into the environment more aesthetically pleasing. So it's kind of a darker tannish color. Probably, I think, the color of those geothermal pipes you see driving from here to Fernley. And the issue with that, I guess, is twofold. One, it's quite a ways from anybody that would ever see it unless you drove out to it. So from an aesthetics perspective, I don't think you're going to see it, unlike the geothermal that you drive by right next to the road here between Fernley and Fallon, right? And the other issue is it's highly sensitive electronic equipment that's been designed to very exacting specifications. Tesla is very, for example, sensitive about any changes that we want to try to make to their design and their equipment. And so we felt that it would be two issues. One, it would likely delay the project significantly. And two, we were not confident that it would ever be even accepted by the equipment manufacturers to change their colors.
I don't know, there's no problem. So the project will be completed in 2027?
Yes.
That's what we're thinking?
Yes.
And the longevity is 30 years?
Yes, approximately.
And we have a BLM right-of-way of 10 years or something?
30 years.
Do you have
Or
a
indefinite.
Do you have a 30-year
Well,
right-of-way from
it
BLM?
would be indefinite once we have the corner crossings.
Once you have that
completed.
tied down.
Yeah, that process
Okay.
completed.
My last question is about, is there a way that citizens of Churchill County could benefit from a reduction in electronic, or electrical expenses, just our county. Is there any way we can be benefited that way?
Unfortunately.
Well, why should I, is that wrong to ask?
No, it's true.
I think that's a fair question.
It's probably, it's probably outside of our expertise. I mean, that goes into the way rates are made and,
Right.
and all of those types of things. You know, there are franchise agreements that are entered into by our company with local government entities. I don't know where we sit today, what that case is for Churchill County. But we would be unable to tell you that we could provide a discount of any kind based on that.
I was just thinking of some net metering benefit we would.
Well, I mean, I will say there is a benefit to the county from a reliability perspective, right? So having the generation right in your backyard, if there's an issue somewhere on the grid, you have the electricity there, right? You have the batteries there. So if there's an issue today on the 345 kV line, for example, going that way, or I'm not sure exactly how it routes to you, but you potentially would have interruption. Whereas today, and again, I'm not an expert in this, and if you have specific questions, we can get the engineers involved. But you're going to have it right here as opposed to pulling it from a
Yeah, I'm glad to
distance.
ask the question, because I thought the transmission could go directly to Las Vegas before it came to us, so. So that's good to know.
Right, no, and there was a question earlier about the line fold. So basically, there's, from the Tracy Generation Station, which is out near Sparks,
Right.
Trick, it goes all the way to Valmy and passes through Churchill County. And it's a 345 kV line. So a line fold is basically, you can't just kind of go out and put hooks on the line, right, for a project of this size. So a line fold, basically, you take the line and you stop, if this were a tower and this were a tower, you stop at this tower and you eliminate this tower because you're going to come up here to the substation and you're going to take the line and fold it through the substation, and then maybe you're going to connect to the tower that's over here. So you eliminate a couple of towers and you reroute the whole line in order to be able to bring the power connections into the substation.
Very good. Well, thank you. Can I just ask one more question for clarification? The battery systems, they're designed to hold that for 4 hours? The capacity is for 4 hours? They hold?
Yes.
Okay. Then that goes to the inverter and from there.
Sorry.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just
you for your
one point of
thoughtful questions.
clarification, the county can't and won't condition approval on any type of benefit being provided outside of the code requirements.
What's that?
Jeff Goings for the record. Okay, so on the variance on the stream flow, I'm sure I've got that named wrong, but you know where I'm headed. So we know that there's no live water out there, right? But those existing stream flows are typically there due to thunderstorms, whatever massive amount of water that comes down through there. So based on what information I was reading, at some point you're going to have to interrupt those. Is there anything in the plans that are going to show us how you intend to interrupt those or change their directions or whatever that will not impact either neighbors or existing roads or items like that?
Yeah, we have our engineers here to answer that in detail, but those plans are still in development, and you can add.
Mike Gamble with Kiewit Power Constructors.
Colby Poteet with Kiewit too.
I am an area manager at Kiewit, and he's a civil engineer. And we are aware of those drainage ditches, whatever channels. So we have to put some leveling of those ditches, smoothing, in order to get the racking system that holds the modules, the panels up, to be within spec. We are buying racking that will bend and contour with the terrain. And we're going to leave it as much as we can. But if you've been out there, there are some edges that are pretty steep. So we got to soften those up to put it in spec with the racking system. And Colby here is designing it such that we will fill them in, but widen them and soften them to allow the same flow and direction without damming it up in adjacent properties, if that makes sense. So we're aware of those flows. We want to keep them as is, same direction, same volume, and try as best we can, we're not in final design, to keep the same water flow, velocity, and volume, if that makes sense.
And we actually run a 2D model on the existing and proposed, so we evaluate all of those depths and areas and where the flow's going throughout the site.
And then when we're finished with final design, we owe them a hydrology report.
I follow. So then will the county have its representative to be able to see those as well? Will that be something that we need prior to us actually making a vote on this at some point, or is that something that we're going to need?
Well, I guess if the intent is to leave them as is, then I guess I don't understand what the variance is for if you're leaving them as is. You're just modifying them.
Generally, I mean, we are going to affect the shape of the channels or the drainage ditches. So to leave them as is, it's probably not a strict, correct statement, but we're going to keep...
I guess the location of where they're at.
Correct.
You're modifying the dimensions, you're leaving them in the location.
That's correct.
So to answer Jeff's question, we have the requirements, like the conditions of approval, which I've mentioned before. But as they start building and constructing, they'll also include grading permits, and we have staff, whether that's Randy or if we hire a consultant to do that work, whatever the case, and we'll have a chance to look at the materials and make sure we're not like damming up the streams and forcing it onto adjacent properties.
Jeff, I guess to answer your question is, this board may not review that again itself. Its condition would be to say that approval is to be conditioned upon staff saying that it's approved, that it meets the conditions that you've set.
You just know, and we travel around this desert, and I've seen what water does, and it's pretty amazing. And, you know, usually it takes, you know, as you all know, what it does, and to change it, sometimes we think we're fixing everything, but we actually create another problem, and that's would be a concern that I think that, you know, anybody involved in this project or making a decision on this project would like to know as much information as we can on it, yeah.
And I guess I'd like to follow up on that as well. I mean, you guys are gonna be modifying the channel, if you will, right? It's gonna keep the same alignment, but the channel's modified, right? Like Jeff mentioned, we've had 2 years in the last 6 years, we had a significant amount of water in this valley. And if we modify those, I mean, I guess my question is there any provisions for stabilization? Is there any provisions for, if you're putting those, the post for the panels themselves in that channel, is that gonna erode away? I guess, just so these guys have a better idea of kind of what your thought is with putting that stuff in the channels.
So as we do reshape them, the construction method would be to do it in lifts as you add, a compaction to certain proctors, and not just leave it loose. So there are construction methods to hope to alleviate that, and designing posts to depths that are sufficient that there is erosion or scour around it, it's still structurally sound, if that makes sense.
And to follow up on that, we will, again, the plans, I think we're supposed to be getting your plans sometime in August for the engineering, the civil portion of that. And we've talked with NV Energy for the building plans. The purpose, the proposed method is to send that out to third-party firms to get them to review that, again, while we review in-house. So again, we've got that second set of eyes on it, and it's not just in-house, so.
And as Joe said, as long as it's part of the recommendations, your office will take it from there. Yeah, okay. I just wanted to get some clarity on it and see where we're at there.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you may or may not be familiar with Kiewit, and if you are, forgive me, but Kiewit is one of the largest constructors in the United States, have done some of the biggest, most complex civil projects in the nation. So I have a high level of confidence that they'll get the water diversion, or not diversion, but the water modifications done properly and in a way that we certainly don't want it to damage our facility, right? Like, we know, I live in Vegas, and behind my house, there is a massive, it was a wash. Now Summerlin tries to control the wash, and it washes, we go down there, probably shouldn't, but we go down there when it rains with my kids to watch the massive water flows. So we know exactly what you're talking about. I've seen it firsthand. And so we definitely don't want to have any issues that would potentially damage this multi-million-dollar facility, right? So we have every confidence that Kiewit's going to get it right for us.
And Chair, can I follow up with one more thing? So we will be sending these out third party for review. We will review in-house. Those comments will be, given back to them for any revisions that need to be made. During construction, it's also third party testing and inspection. So again, with all the compaction tests, all the requirements for concrete testing, everything for the building, we will not be doing that in-house. That'll all be third party, and they understand that as well. So, and we get weekly reports on that that'll be kept on file for the project itself. So,
My last question is, I want to clarify something you said. There will be 1 million panels when this thing is complete. Is that correct?
That's right.
1 million panels.
Yes. Over 1 million.
And that becomes the largest solar project or array project in the United States. Is that correct? No? I didn't think so.
I don't think in the United
okay.
States.
I was checking some stuff today. There's some pretty big ones out there. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So the largest one that was done in the state was Gemini, which is located, if you're familiar with Southern Nevada by Valley of Fire. So the turnoff to go to Valley of Fire State Park off of I-15, that was 690 megawatts. And we have a power purchase agreement as a company with that supplier. We did not build that, but we are the off-taker for that project. We just signed a PPA with a company called Arevia for 700 megawatts. So that one just barely surpassed that project. And that's in the Esmeralda area. So this is a large project, no doubt, but it's not the largest in the state. And in other parts of the world, particularly in China, they build them incredibly large. And so, they don't have the benefit of planning commissions, I think, that we do in the United States to make sure that construction and development is done in a way that is harmonious with the needs of the community and the environment. And so they just kind of build some very large projects out there. So it will be large, but not the largest.
Mr. Chair, can I just have one more?
You can have the floor as long as you need it.
Okay. So just again, so these guys have an understanding, right? I think we'll take care of the drainage stuff in the design, right? The other one that we had a concern with, I think, was the glare. And I just wanted to see if you guys can explain maybe the ease of the panel adjustment. Right? So 6:30 on October or September 25th at 6:30, it's somewhere, some panel hits the road and there's a glare out there. We get a complaint. What is the ease of adjustability on those panels to maybe alleviate that? Or is it, I mean, what is that process, right? Because I hopefully we don't foresee that, but if that does come about, I think we kind of have an understanding or a condition of approval that the adjustability of those panels can be done if something does arise.
So I wouldn't anticipate that there'll be any glare off of those panels. So these are First Solar Series 7 panels. It's the latest technology that they've developed. It's a U.S. company. They'll be manufactured in Ohio. While I'm on the subject, I guess I also mentioned we're likely going to be seeking for domestic content benefits. So we'll be sourcing all U.S. steel and components. And those panels in particular are all U.S. made. And that's probably where we're going to be going, just as an aside. But those panels have anti-reflective coating on them. And so I would not anticipate, they assure me that there won't be any glare. But to the extent there are, they're on tracking system. It's on a tracking system. And so the tilt and angle, or not so much the angle, but the tilt can be adjusted on those panels. And then for phase one, I don't know if you'll even be able to see it from I-80. I'm not sure. I mean, when I drive by, maybe if you're up on that overpass at the turnoff, you might be able to. And but I'm not sure. We could do a visuals, but we haven't done that yet.
Yeah, and I guess I'm not too worried about the I-80 per se. It's, the person out there hunting and coming over the hill and getting blasted, driving off the road, I guess, right? I mean, I guess that's kind of and I just want these guys to understand.
Yeah, there shouldn't be anything like that. There shouldn't be where you walk over that hill and look down into the valley and see a bunch of glare coming back at you. These are not concentrated solar panels. So there's different technologies of solar when you hear solar discussed, right? So there's PV or photovoltaic solar that typically are of two technology types. One is polysilicon, which is by far the vast majority of panels that are manufactured in the world and installed in the world. And then there's, and those tend to have a little bit more glare, if there is any. Then there's First Solar panels, which are thin film, and that's their proprietary technology that's only built by them in the United States, and then in their factories that they have in other parts of the world as well. And again, they have an anti-reflective coating on them. Then there's concentrated solar, which if you've ever driven through Vegas, or if you've ever taken 95 down from here, take 95 all the way down to Vegas, and you go by Tonopah, and you see that big plant out there with the tower, concentrated solar, that's concentrated solar. So those are actually mirrors that are designed to reflect the sun into the collector. So very different things, when you're talking about glare and reflectivity, as opposed to like a thin film panel that we'll be using here.
Thank you. Does staff have any further? Do you have anything else to add? Is all the questions and concerns? Go ahead, Mr. Hyde.
One last question, and I don't mean to be a loose cannon, counsel. What happens at the end of 30 years? What do we do? This is the life expectancy of this plant, so then what happens?
So, difficult question to answer where we sit today. It's on private property, and so I don't know. We don't have a current plan, in part because we don't know the exact life of these panels. So we're in an interesting time with this technology where we're deploying technology that has an estimated life, and none of the panels have ever gotten to that lifespan. In other words, we've not built a project. We're not 30 years past when a project got installed, so we don't really know. And so it's the engineer's best estimate of how long these panels will last. Updated estimates seem to indicate the panels might actually last 45 years. They degrade in their productivity over time. So there may be a time where we look at it and say, okay, well now we're at year 30, we're at 40, and they've degraded, and now we want to install the next new technology. But if there's a budget for decommissioning of the panels at the end of their life, and First Solar it's one of the few panel manufacturers that has a robust in-house recycling program, and so they have the ability to recycle these panels as opposed to having them go into a landfill or something like that. So that's still being developed. We haven't executed an agreement yet with them for that, because like I say, we're still kind of in the nascent years of this technology. Even though there's been solar around for a long time, there really haven't been ones of this size of projects deployed for that period of time.
The reason that comes to my mind is because of what we've done in mining, open mining in particular, where those were years where we didn't really have any type of plan what would happen when we were done taking the ore out. And so a lot of our earth has been scarred with these open mines, and they haven't been properly brought back and with vegetation, et cetera. And I was thinking, what would happen to 30 years where we just walk away from this? Now we have something that's not useful, that certainly is not more beautiful than just nature.
Right.
And so to me, it seems like there ought to be some kind of plan in writing that Yeah, we're going to take some responsibility.
That's right, and I think Dean mentioned that one of the conditions would be a decommissioning bond, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So that would require us to decommission it. And, you know, the best example I can give you for the approach the company's taken in the past would be the Reed Gardner coal plant in southern Nevada. So that was a massive coal plant just off of I-15, if you've ever driven through there. And that was fully decommissioned. 4 stacks were dropped, the plant was removed, the coal field removed, everything completely abated. And now we have actually a standalone battery storage facility there. So, the intent of the company is to do things that optimize sites and to be good stewards.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions or discussions, comments by the
Oh,
council?
I was just going to say that that is a requirement already, that there will be some form of decommissioning. Obviously, if the intent is to replace it with more up-to-date panels, then that would be allowed. If the plan is to decommission the plant entirely, then that would be done through the bond. And so that would be put up beforehand. And so even though we don't know exactly what the plan is, because we're not sure on the exact life and whether it'll be re-upped, the facility won't be able to be just abandoned and left as panels with no plan.
Director Hines.
Yes, and again, this is just discussion. I was taking notes as Christine was giving her presentation. I think you had mentioned 500 employees would be like at total build out. Was that correct, or was I wrong in that?
Up to.
Up to,
Yeah,
okay.
at
So,
the peak.
so looking at that, right, I think that's a little different than what was in the application. Is that correct, Dean?
I think 460 is, I'm just
Was
rounding.
that more or less than?
460 was in the application.
460, okay. I guess we were looking at that road maintenance agreement, right? So I just wanted to bring that up as far as like 500 people driving up and down that road daily.
Well, and if I may.
Yep.
Yeah, I believe that the intent of Kiewit is to actually shuttle people, so to have a staging parking area, and Mike maybe can speak to that.
What we'll likely do is have traffic in on Sage Hen, and then you saw the staging area, and then there's another road, I don't know the name or the number of it, that will have construction and traffic out a different road to alleviate some of that concern.
And again,
So just my understanding is the 500 is construction period only, and then operationally it will be some significantly reduced number.
2 or
I assume.
3.
2 or 3.
that was the number I was getting mixed up. So I just wanted to let you guys know that that's, okay, so 2 different times.
We can only assume if they're gonna have that much traffic, they're gonna mitigate the road all the time because they're not gonna tear up their equipment and their semis and stuff. So I
that's
don't think you have
correct.
to worry about that at all, I don't think.
That's right.
But it'll be in the road agreement that starts when they start construction. And the county, I assume someone from the county will go out there and periodically confirm that it's being met.
Yes, we were discussing the road agreement today, and then when I heard the 500, I didn't know that was for the construction. I thought that was after construction, and that's where I just wanted to just bring that out, so, or clarify that.
Well, you talk about these roads, a prime example of that is go down Dixie Valley Road and look what's happened to Dixie Valley Road. I mean, we've gone back to a gravel road that we used to be paved, and then, it's hit or miss when you're driving down that road. Some days you can barely make it down there, and some days it's 60-mile-an-hour gravel road, so.
And the intent is to put the road back as kind when the construction is complete, so that is the intent, or better, I guess.
That's right. And the construction period, I mean, that peak, Mike, how long do you think that peak employment period will last?
So for us on the solar field, Kiewit's doing the solar part, it will last probably a good 8 to 10 months. What I'll call full production, where you're putting in post, racking, and modules. Those are the key 3 things. I would say it's 8 to 10 months.
So that peak number will last.
It won't be 500
something
from
like
day
8 to
one.
10, even though the construction will be like 2 to 3. So, it'll ramp up, it'll peak, and then it'll ramp down. And then after construction is complete and commissioning has occurred, 3 to 5 maybe. We still don't we still haven't figured all that out, but would be for operations and maintenance.
And to follow up on that, they have been, we've talked about coordinate with the mine as far as when we're constructing, if during construction, right, that, because they use that road quite often and that we just can't block it off for them. So there's gonna be some traffic control, implementation in there so we can make sure, and coordination with the mine traffic so they can still operate as well, and that's.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion? None. As we spoke on item J, we got over into item K, and we've pretty much discussed item K in its entirety also. Does the applicant have anything you want to add for item K, since I did not announce what we were discussing in item K?
No, just thank you for considering this.
Okay. And now at this time, no other else. Now, does the commission have, now that you know that, do you have anything to speak on K? So none said, then is there any public comment for items J and K? There's no public comment heard. There is no decision tonight on these two items. We will be meeting at a future date to be determined real soon to make the decision. Do you need to add anything since we're not making the decision? You want to say anything?
No, the plan is to put it on the July 10th, put that agenda item on the July 10th meeting, so.
Okay. And that was okay with them?
Yes, we tried to get we tried to get one for the week of the 28th, and we just can't get enough for a quorum, so, we've talked with NV Energy and just said, hey, we put our best effort forth. It didn't happen, and the next closest one is the next one would be the July 10th meeting.
Okay, all right.
Just so the commission is aware, we will be working with them to accept their plans and proposals in the interim based on the possibility that this will get approved as presented. So hopefully there won't be any delays, but obviously that doesn't require you to make any particular decision at that time.
Thank
Yeah,
you
I
very
think we
much.
can move, you can keep working, keeping everything going, and then, all right.
Thank you very much for your thoughtful questions and consideration, and we really appreciate Randy and Dean's efforts to help us work through this complex project.
Well, we thank you for attempting to bring this project to Churchill County. Moving forward, agenda item number 10, consent agenda. Can I have a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
Mr. Chair, Zach Bender, for the record, I move to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Second. Motion been made by Commissioner Bunyard, second by Commissioner Goings. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Agenda item number 11, is there any public comment? None heard. Agenda item number 12, meeting is adjourned, 9:28 PM. Thank you for coming.